Part 2 of rookie mistakes you might make when you start working for hire.
All right,
Cheers.
we coming back for the intro.
Be free, little intro. Be free. All right, we are back here with part 2. If you saw last week, we're going to finish off our list. We talked a lot about mistakes that you make when you first get a job or you get asked to do a job. Before we start that, we want to let you know about PAC, the Photographers Adventure Club. You can find out more information at photoabvclub.com. We do all kinds of walks,
Workshops. We
Photo
do
workshops.
photo walks,
What are you doing
meetings,
It's going to be like a little lightning round with Here Come Alvin and the
workshops, and
Chipmunks.
and trips.
photo trips.
So check that out on that website, and we'd like to introduce everyone. So we have Scott,
Yo,
Sprague,
Hey,
and Susie. She's silent
she
today.
did the
Yeah.
wave.
yeah, did the wave.
There are several waves. I know them all.
And my name is Nick. So let's jump right into it. Let's not dilly around. So
Not beat around the bush.
Beat
Let's
around
go.
it, yeah. So we're going to talk about posing. So understanding posing and group shots out there. So the biggest fail, we've taken Michelle Salentano's classes. We've seen her speak, and it's like literally an art form. Like she has this down. She's written the book on it.
Yep.
Like not even figurative. She's written the book on how to do this, and it's not easy. So just don't pose groups.
Well,
Moving
it's easy
on.
when you know.
That's right, yeah.
It is easy if you know what to do, and she makes it easy. But
fun.
it's not intuitive.
It's always the important part.
Posing people is not intuitive, and posing people for photography is not intuitive. So it is important, I think, to do your homework and learn how to pose groups, small and large, and work with things like for people to sit on or, to put people at different levels, things like that, how to work around and help accentuate people's best features and maybe de-accentuate some of their not so
So what to do
flattering
with
features.
what to do with hands? That's always a big one. You're posing people.
Mhm.
What do you do with hands?
Well, I always try to show connection with hands, and so especially like if you're doing like a family grouping, you want the hands to show that there's at least some sort of connection between the family, that there are family members. Obviously this doesn't work if the grooms, like when I photograph groomsmen and they're all groomsmen, for them, yeah, you don't want them all touching and being, first of all, anytime they lift that always pulls on their coat jacket. So I always tell them to put their hands in their pockets or, stand like they would as if they were like, real cool, standing on the street corner, be
like
cool.
their thumb in the pocket.
Yeah, thumb in the pocket, hands, four fingers in the pocket. But, hands are always a tough one.
Problem one.
Yeah, speaking of hands, I had to explain to a person one time that perhaps having their index finger inserted into their nostril and giving me the bird, might be funny in the moment, but in reality might not be the shot that they wanted.
Yeah,
Not
so,
up their
that goes into
Right, yeah.
like crowd control because when you're photographing groups, there's always going to be that one jackass who's like the comedian. I don't know if I can say jackass, but I just did it twice actually. There's always going to
You
be
can,
that
it's in the Bible.
that one
Can
guy
you say
who's like
jackass?
who's
Wait.
throwing
Yeah.
throwing the fingers behind, and he's like, and you got to do the crowd control, and so you gotta get this under control, and not only get it under control, but
Jack,
you gotta get them.
Jack, can we say jackass? No, we can't say jackass.
Okay,
Yeah, you
no more
can.
Jack
jackass.
back there says no.
like I said, it was in the Bible.
Sorry,
in the
Jack.
jackass
I didn't
braid
mean to call
3
you an
times.
ass.
It was in there, and it was good.
So you have jokesters, you have problem people, you
Yeah,
have
you're always gonna
little
have that.
kids that may be
Oh, God, little
annoying that
kids,
you have to
yeah.
duct tape down and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's
always
so.
bring duct tape in your kit.
So yeah, that's always you've got to be confident enough to be able to walk into a situation and control the situation. Because if you even show the slightest bit of intimidation, they will walk all over you. And trust me, they will. You always get that one person who likes to push you and try to mess you up. And
Give those drunks the
drunk
smackdown.
friend.
yeah,
stuff.
the drunk groomsman who is.
So on that same note with group posing, and I don't want to get too far from the weeds with this, but there's always that proverbial Uncle Bob that's over there, and what that causes and what that annoys about me. I don't care that he's getting pictures so much, but I
Explain
care.
what Uncle Bob is, because you skip past it, and it's kind of like an inside reference.
Uncle Bob is you know, we all have one in our family. It's
that family photographer
it's
who
probably
has the
us that we
DSLR.
bring a camera to
That's right,
other people's
yeah.
But
events.
always stand right over your shoulder because evidently you're at the spot where
Yeah.
that's the shot to get. So they're hovering, like
Yeah.
breathing down your neck, trying to shoot every shot you shoot.
I
You
don't.
know,
I don't.
the aunt or uncle or grandmother, whoever's right there, like right next to you. The problem I have with it is not so much, I don't care if they get the shot because they're not going to get as good of a shot as I get or use the same lighting, but it gives you wandering eyes. So if you were taking a picture of all four of us, and this happened at Sandy's party, and I said it to Steven, if you're watching and you didn't know what I meant, I was like, you're like Uncle Bob. You're standing right next to Phyllis taking the pictures with the big camera. So half the people are looking at Phyllis and half are
Yeah.
looking at Steven. So every picture had two people looking one way and the other way. So then no one's pictures are good.
Yeah, well, that also goes into crowd control too. But you know, the Uncle Bob, it could be they're the ones that they come with their DSLRs and they think they fancy themselves as photographers. And I don't mind people taking shots. I don't care, except for one time when I'm doing posing and I'm setting up the shot. Those are my shots, and that's when I don't want anybody shooting over my shoulder.
Yeah.
And when people do shoot over my shoulder, I have a tendency to step all over them. Like,
Yeah, I used to put my elbow
literally
up and
step all over them.
I would be aware of where they were and get in their way and like you said, lean in the way,
Yeah.
get in the way, step backwards.
I
would try because what I would do is I would tell them like, hey, take your shots because I don't care that they took shots. So I didn't do a lot of posing, but I'd do a group shot. Let them all take their shots, but they would get greedy then and they'd keep taking shots. And I go, listen, I let you take your shot. Let me get mine. And they'd still put their camera up and I'd stop and I'd be like, please put your camera down. And they don't understand why. And I'd sit there and can't be give everyone directions of this is why you need to not do this. They don't care. They just want to keep taking pictures.
Yeah,
So
I don't even let them do it because that's my time, and I don't have that much time. I mean, if you know how a timeline goes, you've only got so much time to get the shots, and there's always you're wrangling people, you're trying to get people together. That eats up enough time. Let alone, okay, you go ahead and get your shot for. No, I don't do that.
well, I would just let them all shoot, so then they get all wandering eyes, and then I want all the focus.
No,
on me.
I make it very clear that you don't shoot while I'm shooting these because
We need like V flats behind us. Like I'll bring my V flat, set it up.
well,
and shoot
I have
in
a
there.
tendency to get my shots really quick, and then I walk into the group. So if they want to take their shots, I'm right. They're shooting my back because I won't let them do it. That's a big no-no in my book because that's the one thing that's differentiating you from that Uncle Bob is, you know, if he's got essentially the same camera that you have, and you know maybe he might not have the same lighting, but he's going to get a very, very similar shot that you have. And what is he going to do? He's going to post that on Instagram like that night before you even get home, and you've lost that part of it. So I don't let anybody shoot during my posing shots. Any other time, it's fine.
And if that doesn't work, spill a high-quality brandy on them and flame their khakis. They'll be so busy trying to put their pants out that they'll just
wine.
yeah, geez,
I do
Cheers,
get in
know.
the way. So I do get in the way and make it difficult. Even if you're doing anything, it could be just like, hey, let's get together for like, we had a shoot in here of just a family portrait. And, as you're setting them up, you have 10 people with cell phones taking pictures of the other people. And it's like, we're going to give you the really great photos. Why do you all have to be like this? And I guarantee you people are all looking
All
at
that
them.
stuff's going on Facebook that night.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I mean, it happened to me last weekend. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It goes on.
That's just the age of social media. Everything's going on Facebook
Like,
anyway.
right away.
But you're the experienced photographer, you know how to work the light, you know how to make the most of your equipment and the situation and posing, etc. You're going to get better photos than Uncle Bob does.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I think the bigger aspect is you don't really want them putting things out there that look just like, the composition that you're ultimately going to deliver in much more finished fashion, but they put it out there, 2 weeks ahead of time or whatever, when then you do your reveal with the bride and groom and they feel like they've already seen a lot of the pictures. That's where I think the takeaway, what Uncle Bob is taking away from what you're delivering is that wow impact moment, all of that kind of stuff, because then they're looking at those photos going, that's like I've seen this.
Yeah.
I've-
Yeah, well, Uncle Bob is trying to convince the crowd that he can do for free what the bride and groom have paid somebody to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if he
and
had to
that's-
actually
there's
put it
probably
together
just
by
a
himself,
hobbyist
good. you
or
know.
someone that's really into photography.
That's a
so
whole nother episode. Seriously.
Yeah, we could make a whole Uncle Bob episode. We should
Yeah.
put that on the list.
That's
So,
right. Well, it might be a good sitcom, you know. And,
So another thing that we want to talk about is understanding lighting, whether it's natural light or adding your own light.
Mhm.
So that's a common mistake. People underexposed pictures, overexposed pictures, don't really.
Shooting in mixed lighting,
Mixed
a lot
lighting,
of
white
mixed lighting, and
balances, yeah.
not really knowing what to do about those photos when you've got candlelight and tungsten and fluorescent and
And your flash,
window
and stuff.
light and everything all in one room.
Not understanding that and we just saw this recently, but not understanding that your flash needs to be over your camera if you're going to have it on the camera to get a flash bracket. I don't understand how you can be a professional wedding photographer or any other event photographer and not ever have used a flash bracket to keep that over or take it off the camera and put it on a stand or something. So use a flash bracket, right? It's like the essential tool when I'm running around doing my candids and other
I
stuff.
do for some things. Yeah, it is a tool in my bag, and I pull it out when I need it. But
For the unfamiliar, a flash bracket holds the flash in the upright position when you turn your camera to a portrait orientation or landscape orientation. It's allowing you to keep the flash up so that when you turn it, you don't then have the flash over to the side and throwing weird shadows and things like that.
Weird shadows overexposing the person on the left more than on the right.
Yeah, the thing is that a lot of people, they think that they can go in and shoot high ISO, and you can. But the problem is that they go in and they shoot high ISO, and they're still not nailing their exposures. And so what they do is they're shooting at 30. I shoot at 3200 all the time, 1600 all the time, no problem. But the problem is that if you don't nail your exposure at that high ISO, and then you think, oh, I'll take it into Lightroom or Photoshop, and you can bump up your exposure, you're going to destroy your photo.
Yeah.
Because you're going to introduce so much grain. If you nail it at 3200, you're good.
Yeah.
But if you don't nail it and then you got to adjust it, you've destroyed your photo.
Yeah, it's degraded so much already.
So know your lighting.
So
no lighting, understand lighting, no mixed lighting, white balance. It's again going back to your camera. These are all problems. Know your bounce lighting. I had an employee of mine bounce my flash on my camera that she was using off the ceiling, which is a great trick if the ceiling's not yellow. So the ceiling was yellow. So I've talked about this before, maybe on here, but the client got lots of black and white photos for that shoot because I couldn't fix it. It was total, everyone it bounced off, and I'm like, why are they all yellow? And then I noticed the walls were yellow. Figured out the ceiling was yellow. They were bouncing yellow light off. So know how to bounce your flash, know when to bounce your flash, know when not to bounce your flash. So there's a lot of lighting stuff that you need to know for indoor, photography.
Well, and if you don't have a flash, then sometimes what you want to do is, for one thing, avoid dappled light and avoid, really bright lights and sunlight and then darkness and trying to, capture an exposure for one of them because the camera's only going to see one and it's going to be way out of limits. So maybe look for something that's more in the shade or the light is more uniform and then shoot somebody against, more of a solid backdrop where you haven't got a lot of contrasty light.
Flash up on the 70, I'll pop a little flash up and fill flash. That's fine from here to there, to be able to fix that dappled light situation. So don't discount using some kind of flash outdoors too.
Or even use a wall. I mean, sometimes you can get a light that's bouncing off of a white wall and you have another one, and so you can get some light bouncing in the room and you can shoot it with a higher ISO, but at least you've got a flatter light for the camera to expose, and it's a lot easier to post-process.
Yeah, so there's lots of tricks out there to help with lighting and stuff. So, what else? Storytelling. For any kind of event, you don't just want to have a mishmash of stuff going on. You want to kind of lead people through, especially if you're going to build or they're going to build an album to lead them through the event.
Yeah, because the whole idea of shooting the event is so that people can look back at the photos and essentially relive the experience or understand what the experience was like if they weren't there. So you have the beginning, the middle, the end. that kind of stuff, those elements in there, and that goes back to planning ahead and thinking of the shots that you want to get. But along with storytelling, just in the general concept, part of that is capturing details that we would pick up on and notice as an attendee, as someone being there, but that if you're just shooting groups of people and stuff, you're not getting the little things, the shot of how cute the cupcakes were or whatever.
Oh yeah, all the table stuff. So I would do that. Like when we work together, he'll be out doing the group shots. I'll be shooting the room and all the details on the table, the favors, the cake, before. So you have shots of the cake without it being messed up or them in it. The lights, the decorations. If it's a wedding, bridal shoes and rings and all that stuff. So you capture as much of that. So then they have a full view of what the event was, even if they don't buy those photos, that they can remember, I paid way too much for these, decorations, because they usually pay way more for the veggie platter and the food and all that.
That's my general rule, is anything they paid for, you photograph.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. It's going back to the storytelling, you have to transition your photos from one scene into the next. Especially like when you're building an album, you don't want to just go from, the bride getting ready and then all of a sudden go jump into the ceremony.
Yeah.
You want to show how you transition from the bride to the ceremony. So maybe photograph the bride in the car or getting out of the car, or, going from group photos to ceremony, maybe show the bridal party, kind of walking off. Walking off. Some people call it crosswalking. Some people call it other things, but show them walking off, and that's like a transition to the next scene, so that
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be in order necessarily. You can mishmash them up to tell the story. So even you watch videographers and you watch all this stuff, and you're like, that didn't happen if you were there at the event. You're like, that didn't happen in the order, but they are great at storytelling, so they'll move stuff around to make their case or to build their story. So do you do that too, where you'll make the story?
Well, I do try to shoot it in sequence. I try to, but sometimes I know that if I need to have a closing photo, if I can't get the bride and the groom, during the reception and say pull them out to get that closing photo, then I may shoot that closing photo earlier and then just insert it into the back as the closing photo. And usually it's the darker photo because usually it's kind of like a fade out to me in my mind. When you listen to music or you watch a movie, you always have that kind of fade out. And so in my mind, I usually try to create a photo that's a little bit darker. Maybe it's a silhouette of them. Maybe it's, it's a little bit more abstract of them. And so that's kind of like my fade out photo. So it's all storytelling. All of that is very a conscious, thing, which a new photographer, they're just so overwhelmed by the event, they don't think about that storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. So to recap on everything that we talked about for part 2 is understanding posing, understanding group shots. Be aware for Uncle Bob's and Aunt Milda's out there over your shoulder, giving you wandering eyes. Understand lighting and difficult lighting situations with many different types of lighting, like shade, even indoors, outdoors, everything. Understand natural light and adding light. Storytelling and the details, don't forget about it. And getting your backgrounds is something we're going to talk about. Beware of messy backgrounds out there. So I am out of beer, so this episode is now over. So we're going to move on.
So, cheers.
Cheers. And we'll see you next time.
You need to drink more.
Well, that's what I've been told,